So I think what happened here is that Cain and Abel went out to the field, like Cain asked him. And Cain said, "Give me a sheep." And I think Abel said to him, "Sell me your birthright." Have you ever heard that before?
So I was hoping you would say that, because you have told me that before, but I've never heard of it from any other person or account before. I know you told me once that I think you found to figure out what Cain and Abel said, or at least what Abel said, that led Cain to rise up and kill him.
Yeah.
And not to, I don't want to, I don't know if you had something planned to say, but that to me makes a lot of sense, because now you had introduced this to me in the past, but it parallels Jacob and Esau.
And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob,
"Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint."
Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said,
"Sell me this day thy birthright."
And Esau said,
"Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?"
And Jacob said,
"Swear to me this day."
And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
The younger brother wanted the birthright.
Yeah. I think, why not? Of course, there will be a parallel to the Jacob and Esau story, you know?
Right. Dude, makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Again, I think the traditional idea is that Cain was just really, really upset, so he killed Abel. But again, God, understand verse 6 and verse 7, God was like, "Hey, hold on here. You still have a chance here. Go talk to your brother." So Cain, took Abel out into the field, and they were going to talk, and something must have pissed off Cain. And that seems like the most logical thing that Abel must have said, because we see a parallel of it later in the Bible.
And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart,
"The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob."
Yeah.
But before you ever mentioned that to me, I never heard of such a thing. I never would have known. You would always think that, well, Cain was just really mad at Abel, so he killed him.
Yeah, it's just speculation on my part, but without it, you can't have this raging Cain for no reason. It's just, there has to be more to it, some reason. You have to make sense of it, I think.
And again, like I said, going into verse 8, based on like the way you interpret verse 7, which I think it is a better interpretation than the personification. Then again, going in, Cain doesn't really have a license to kill or a motive to kill going into verse 8. So why did he just kill his brother to kill him if he really didn't have a motive in the first place?
Yeah.
I hear you. I have to agree with that possibility. Or at least agree that, Abel saying, "Sell me your birthright," is a good possibility of what he said.
Yeah. And I think, it's just speculation, but I think Abel said, "Sell me your birthright." And Cain said, "All right," and took the sheep and then clubbed Abel to death. Said, "There's your birthright." And then he may have gone and offered the sacrifice to please God. I don't know. Because in verse 9, then it says, "And the Lord said unto Cain," seems like maybe this is a little later and Cain's just, going about working on he's doing some green thumbing, and the Lord says, where's Abel?
I see.
We're not given a setting, but it's obviously not right away, or else there would be Abel's body lying there. So this is a little later, maybe when Cain is tending his crops, and I think he must have offered the offering and went back to living or something. The Lord says again, where is Abel? It's like it's not like there's some unfinished business, like, hey, Cain, did you take a sacrifice yet?
Right. It does seem like you'd think that the Hebrew text would set the stage a little better of saying something like, when Cain brought his sin offering to God, and it came to pass when Cain provided a sin offering. I don't know.
Yeah.
It almost seems like it's not like Cain brought the sin offering and then God asked, well, where is Abel thy brother? I suppose that's a possibility, but it does seem like just, I don't know. I kind of agree where it seems like maybe some time has passed and he's just kind of out of the blue. Like, so I haven't seen Abel in a few days. What's going on here, Cain?
Yeah. Now, here's where I'm going to say something that hardly anyone will agree with at first.
Go right ahead.
Okay. In Genesis 4:9.
And the Lord said unto Cain,
Where is Abel, my brother?
And he said,
I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?
Now, some people look at this as a lie and then a smart alecky remark. And I find that impossible. Cain wasn't talking to God that way. Have you ever thought about that?
I was writing down some notes there. What did you say about verse 10?
Well, in verse 9b, the words of Cain, it says,
and he said,
I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?
He says two things there. And people think that when he says, I know not, that's a lie. And then the second thing he says, am I my brother's keeper? That seems to be a smart alecky remark.
Right. I follow you.
I just don't think that Cain lied and then made a smart alecky remark to God. I just don't think that's what's going on here. And here's what's really going on here. Cain, after he killed Abel, he planted him in the dirt and was hoping he would rise up.
Really?
Yeah. He knows that other things he plants rise. And he thought that if God wanted Abel, he could rise him up. And so God says, where's your brother? He says, I know not. It's because he doesn't know if God's raised him or not. Am I my brother's keeper? It's actually, God would be Abel's keeper. And that word, keeper, it's interesting because it's this word for guardian once again. And it's something else I would say here. Am I my brother's keeper? That is not the same word as in verse 2 where it says Abel was a keeper of sheep. That's a different Hebrew word there. So Cain is not making a play on the fact that his brother was a keeper of sheep, and then he's like, am I my brother's keeper? He's not making a play on that. It's a different Hebrew term altogether. And so, and I don't think it's a smart alecky remark. I think he's saying he's planted his brother, but it's God's responsibility to raise him. And that's just a thought I'd throw out there for people to consider. But this is another verse where people read it and think Cain is just this bad guy, you know. There's
Right.
a couple of them that are like that, and I just don't think people are reading it right. I can actually prove he's not such a bad guy as we keep going here. Yeah, so Genesis 4:9, you won't hear that anywhere. Cain planted Abel.
That's new to me, man. Completely new to me.
Well, I could be wrong.
Well, I think
can't.
I think you have a reasonable answer. Like he thinks that, like, I don't know, maybe he thinks that God raised him from the dead, or that he grew or something like that.
Well, he's left it in God's hands. You know,
Right.
that's how I see it. And maybe I'm wrong. I just can't imagine lying to God like that. It's just odd. And then topping it off, what am I, my brother's keeper or something?
Right.
I just can't imagine Cain talking that way to God. So I think there's something. I think he's done something, and I know I can prove he put Abel in the ground in the verses that follow. And I think he left it to God to raise him up. But it goes on in 10. God said,
What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground.
So God can sense the death of Abel. But then he goes on in verse 11.
And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth.
Now right here, this is a curse now on Cain that's similar to the curse that came down upon Adam just in the previous chapter. There's an absolute parallel. It's the same type of curse. And Cain is losing the possibility of restoring things. He can't be the one. And I think he's losing the spirit at this point. He can't grow. Can't grow stuff. And I don't think he has the spirit of the Lord anymore after this.